this rocket got to roll. So I hit the road and made my getaway. Restless feeling really got a hold. I started searching for a better way. They kept on looking for a sign in the middle of the night, but I couldn't see the light.
Here we are, episode 4. You know who it is, Wardo and The Don.
This is Wardo.
I am The Don. Before we get going, I like to remind you, check us out on facebook.com/Wardo and The Don. You can check us out on wordpress.com/Wardo and The Don. And if you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about, hit us up, wardoandthedon@gmail.com. And don't forget, if you like that jam and the other jams we play, search for us on Spotify and check out the playlist. You will not regret it.
Oh no, that is a fire playlist.
I don't want to talk about this, Jared, but we have to. Pat's
let's just get into it. Let's get it out of the way.
I just get it off our chest and move on.
The quote-unquote miracle in Miami this week. What a disaster. What a disaster.
And the Patriots, going into the week, we were hearing all these stats about how poorly they played down in Miami, and it's true. But I thought it was just a fluke, I thought they were going to go down and steamroll.
Yeah, and honestly, the way I picture us struggling down in Miami, I picture us struggling, I picture like defensive ends like Jason Taylor in the past, getting to Brady, putting pressure on the quarterback, sacking the quarterback. Brady in the offense, I thought, played a spectacular game. There was one particular throw to Cordarrelle Patterson that was on a string. Brady played great, and the defense didn't play great. Honestly, that's a win. Outside of the last disaster of a play of the game.
It is a bit of a weird play that happens probably once every 10 years. I do agree that this is probably Brady's best game of the season. Maybe not statistically, but the way he looked.
It might be statistically. I know fantasy-wise, I noticed he's my backup. I got Mahomes, but I saw that he had a pretty good statistic performance against the. He had a good game, and usually I think it's him that struggles, or he struggles to get time in the pocket down in Miami because they're historically a team that applies pressure on the quarterback, and that's something we struggle with.
I thought Gronk and Edelman both looked good. I thought that kind of big three was back.
Gordon looked fantastic.
Gordon had a great game.
96, 98 yards, something like that.
Disappointing running game for sure. Sony didn't look as well as he has in past weeks.
No.
This is another loss on the road. We're going to be playing Pittsburgh next week. How do you think that's going to go?
It's up in the air. I know that it's the game of the year. I know I overreacted when we lost this week in saying that.
Well, that's what we do.
I felt like the season was over.
Yeah.
Because we don't have a great reputation on the road in the playoffs. So when we lost this game, I just pictured us in Arrowhead losing a game in Kansas City. But also, Houston lost and Pittsburgh lost as well. And Pittsburgh lost their third straight. Pittsburgh also potentially without James Conner this week. I'm not sure. It's up in the air as another questionable. I know he didn't play last week. I think the game for the Pittsburgh comes down to that. It's up in the air. It's in Pittsburgh. That's going to be a tough game for us. That's a very, very challenging game. If we can't win on the road there, we're going to have a hard time beating anybody. We've had a hard time beating anybody on the road.
Yeah, and before this week, I too didn't think the Patriots had really any chance of going into Kansas City and winning. But after watching that Baltimore game with Lamar Jackson in there, and then eventually getting hurt, RG3 had to come in. They played Kansas City really well, and in my opinion, the Patriots are way better than Baltimore. So I think the Patriots do have a chance to go into Kansas City and win. But I agree this week could be tough because, like you said, Pittsburgh had that disappointing loss to Oakland, who's just been abysmal all year. So I think they're going to be hyped.
Pittsburgh just lost 3 straight, I believe. So they're coming in off 3 straight losses, and we're coming in off of this brutal loss. So this is going to be and not only that, it's not two scrub teams. We're talking about the Steelers and the Patriots.
This is the Pittsburgh Steelers here.
This is a heavyweight matchup in the AFC right here. So 6 Super Bowl championships to 5 Super Bowl championships. 11 Super Bowl championships between the two teams. whoever wins this game is going to be. I'll tell you, the Steelers are going to possibly be putting themselves on the outs of the playoffs if they lose this game.
This is a must-win for them.
It's a must-win for Pittsburgh. It feels like a must-win for us, although that's just because we're New England fans.
It does, but there's no chance that Miami catches this in the division. I don't care what anybody says.
No, I don't think so. We have 2 divisional games, I believe, the Jets and Buffalo, to finish the season.
The real concern is just getting that home field because of how poorly the Pats have played on the road. But
we're a different team at home.
Yeah, it is what it is at this point. Looking else around the league, who else did you like?
Chiefs OT win at Baltimore, so they struggled that. They toughed that one out. Minnesota offensive coordinator fired. Offensive coordinator John DeFilippo was fired. I'm not sure if he's taking the heat.
Is it him or Cousins? Who's the problem?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's taking the heat for. And you're talking. You got 2 prime time wide receivers in Thielen and Diggs. You got a great running back. You got a fantastic tight end in Kyle Rudolph. What's the issue here? I know the line is.
You can't fire Cousins.
But what is going on here? Because you brought in Cousins, and honestly, I was kind of big on Cousins. Not big on him, but I thought that he was, a top 10, maybe top 15 quarterback. I'm not sure I think so anymore. I think they might have made the wrong call here.
Yeah, I agree. Looking else around the league going forward, a few games that I like next week. Cleveland at Denver. Denver's -3. I like them to cover that.
It's a great game. That's it. You got Denver, who's still in the playoff picture. Cleveland, who's not in the playoff picture, but Cleveland, who's looked at times to be a very good team this year, and you got a young team. So I think they're just getting some experience this year, and I'll tell you, I really like watching them play.
We've spent a lot of time talking about Cleveland, so we both like them. But I just think going to Denver this late in the season, Baker is a rookie. Game. I do see Denver covering that, and I also like Houston
they
at
put pressure
the Jets.
On the quarterback, boy, they really do.
Houston at the Jets, 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one big time.
Also, in the NFC, you got to talk about the Cowboys and you got to talk about the Bears. Both of those teams are.
How about them Cowboys?
Both of those teams are starting to honestly poke forward as Super Bowl contenders. You had the Saints and the Rams as, no doubt. But they're starting to be a little more human. And then you got the Cowboys and the Bears with those defenses and the offenses that can score starting to look like they can contend. The Cowboys look scary.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that both the Bears and the boys are doing it with defense mostly in this, offensive league. You look at Mahomes, like that Chiefs-Rams game, people were freaking out. They were like, oh, football's ruined forever.
Yeah.
And you look at the Bears and the Cowboys, and they're really doing it with the defense.
No, there was several games this week that were very low scoring. Like just last night.
Isn't it better, don't you think?
3-0 at half, I believe, the last night.
Maybe not that, but
it was rough. Yeah.
Yeah, this 24-17 game is better than a 49-51 game, I think. But that's just me.
Also, I was reading Eli Manning in the NFC East. Apparently Eli Manning is the quarterback going forward for the Giants. I'm not sure what they're thinking.
I think his dad leaked that. Just so he doesn't get fired or something. How can they not move on from Eli?
How can they not move on from
They got Beckham, Barkley. You have to take advantage of those 2 guys while they're under contract for you.
Yeah, you get
Eli's not going to win you anything.
2 of the best skilled players at the position, and you got a quarterback who cannot throw the ball downfield whatsoever.
Bite the bullet. Yeah, he won you 2 Super Bowls. He beat us, the Patriots.
He made big plays. He didn't have these crazy statistical seasons. He didn't win them Super Bowls. But he made plays when he had to, and I'll give him that.
Say what you will, but they have to...
Is he a Hall of Famer? No. I don't think so. He's going to be.
He will. He'll get in.
He will get in, but I don't think that he is a Hall of Famer. I guess you put him in the same class as a guy like Phillip Rivers, and Phillip Rivers will probably also get in.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Phillip Rivers without a Super Bowl, Eli Manning with 2, but Rivers not. I would take Phillip Rivers over Eli Manning, so it's just...
I think we're both small Hall guys, and that's something we'll get to a little later.
Yes.
But right now we've got the Bruins game on behind us. They got a nice little comeback going on. They were down 2-0. I think it's 4-3 at this point.
It's 4-3. Yeah, it was 4-2, and then they scored to bring it within 1 here. But yeah, it was 2-0. The Bruins' first line took over the game.
Yeah. And,
as we were sitting here talking about every other couple of minutes, we're looking back like, hey, they scored again. It was either Pasta or Marchand or somebody on the first line.
That first line is carrying the squad. And I don't know if you saw the rumor today about a possible Krug trade with Nugent Hopkins. There was talks of DeBrusque being thrown in there, Donato. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I saw it. The more I think about it, we talked about it. I've been thinking about it. I don't think I think I'd like to stand put right now. I don't want to overreact to the injuries. I do. He's a good player. We could use some scoring. I brought this up in one of the past podcasts. We could definitely use some scoring past the first line. That is an issue.
Big issue.
It's a big issue. So, but Krug, I do like, in this struggle that we've been going through right now, it seems like the 2 games that we did win, we won, with Krug playing well. So
we are kind of thin at defense as it is, but that being said, I do agree that the lack of scoring from other lines is a problem. So even if, he's a former number overall 1 pick in 2011.
Yep.
And even if he's not like a franchise-changing type of player, I think if he could just be a solid, second-line center that can do some scoring for you, that would help the Bruins
we have a
tremendously.
prolific first line. I mean, we have one of the best lines in the NHL.
I'm even
when
down.
Bergeron's back healthy, that line is maybe the best line in the NHL.
It's up there for sure. I'm down to even Krug and Krejci, or like Krug and almost anybody. I'm down for Nugent Hopkins. I think I'd like to take a chance. Because the GM over there is Peter Chiarelli, and as we know, he doesn't really know what the fuck he's doing. He traded away Tyler Seguin, he traded away Taylor Hall, traded away Doug Hamilton. It's terrible.
Joe Thornton.
Yeah.
You could rattle off names.
Yeah.
As a Bruins fan, Chiarelli was here, and we had all this faith in Chiarelli.
He brought us the Stanley Cup.
Did bring us the Stanley Cup.
That being said,
I'll always have a little bit of a tough time understanding. I love Joe Thornton, big Joey T guy.
Jumbo
he was
Joe.
He could have been a great Bruin, one of the best Bruins of all time.
I don't know. I don't think he's a winner, honestly.
The Sharks haven't won. Yeah, the Sharks haven't won.
They had some loaded teams.
The Sharks are an organization that can win. The Bruins are.
Sharks are a kind of a sneaky good hockey town.
Absolutely. I lived out there in California for a little while, and when they were in the Stanley Cup, I was a little bit disappointed. I went out to work in San Jose during that week, and it seemed like there was no buzz. Really? Where it's if there was the Stanley Cup in Boston, you would have known. Yeah. Every place you went, that's what was going on. So there wasn't much of a buzz. It is California.
I think that's California sports in general.
But at the same time, I have love for all the California hockey teams there. I've always been kind of a Ducks guy. I played my first hockey team as a kid.
Ducks fly together.
I played for the Ducks. Yeah. My dad coached. We played for the Ducks. The first 3 years I played for a team, I think. So I always have a soft spot for the Ducks.
Quack.
No. I love it.
Speaking of California teams,
the Flying V.
we were looking at the Celtics situation with the upcoming draft, and they have Sacramento's pick along with a few others. They could possibly get. Let me see here. They could possibly get a few other picks. They have their own pick. They could have 4 in the first round, but Sacramento's playing way above.
Pending, right? It depends on how they.
Finish. But Celtics have been looking good. How you feeling?
I think the Celtics have looked great. I know that they were at 10-10. They were 500. We were worried about them. Now I believe they're at 16-10. Since we talked, they've been on fire. I know we talked about the move, putting Marcus Smart in the starting lineup.
Oh,
that has made a world of difference.
They've looked great.
Even last night, so they beat the Bulls 133-77, which is just a romping. I believe the biggest blowout in Celtics history, the biggest blowout loss in Bulls history.
Yep. Yeah.
On both ends, it was an absolute blowout. But think about it. You're talking about I don't just want to compare to them, but they are the team that's dominant right now. The Warriors, that's the type of stuff they're doing. They're blowing teams. They're way above the teams that they're playing. And then they won against the Pelicans, which, not the best team in the league. They got
a great talent.
They do have Anthony Davis, but they beat the Pelicans without Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, and Al Horford. So,
that's what you like to see.
You get 21 points from Tatum, Marcus Morris with 31 points. Marcus Morris, I swear, every time I watch a game of the Celtics, Marcus Morris impresses me in a different way. I think this guy is a solid ball player.
He's a good Celtic.
He's definitely the most underrated Celtic right now. Because you got all these names that you talk about. You don't realize Marcus Morris he's a big contributor on this team.
quietly doing his thing for sure.
Absolutely.
I really think they're starting to click, and whoever they got coming off the bench, I mean, they're so deep. If you think about it, there's nobody in the NBA that's really deeper than Boston. They could have like
They're
Horford.
so deep.
Yeah, they could have Hayward
I mean,
coming
you're
off the
talking
bench.
if you continue this lineup with Smart at the 1, Kyrie at the 2. You're talking about like Gordon Hayward and
Rozier.
Jalen Brown and Terry Rozier being your bench. It's
Nobody else.
We're not going to be able to
there.
keep this team around as a whole. But I'll tell you right now, as of this year, if there's a time to contend with the Warriors, things like that, we got to get ourselves in that position. I know for a fact that when the Eastern Conference Finals comes around, the Celtics will be there. Against who, I'm not sure. Raptors,
Sixers, I don't give
Bucks,
a chance. I think they're too much of a mental case. You got
I agree.
Embiid complaining about like how the offense is run. It's like,
yeah, we
man,
talked about that earlier. Joel Embiid running his mouth a little bit already. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks into the system. You give yourselves a top player, and Jimmy Butler's not just a great player,
They're clearly
but he's
better
a
with
defensive
Butler.
player.
Yeah.
He's a guy that makes your whole team better. And I know that Jimmy Butler is a pain in the ass. He's totally a pain in the ass. He was a pain in the ass. He wanted out of Chicago. He goes to Minnesota. He wants out of Minnesota. Then he pulled this just display in Minnesota where he was acting an asshat at practice and making it. I'm not sure the whole thing, but he goes to the 76ers, seems to be fitting in now, and 2 weeks into it, you get Joel Embiid, like, I don't like my role in the offense now. It's like, it just seems like drama all the time. And I don't think we're dealing with that with the Celtics, which...
No, the Celtics, they have too much talent. That's their problem.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
There's,
wow.
like I said, if you keep that starting lineup that's been successful, scoring 120-plus points a game over the past 6 games or whatever it is, if you keep that lineup in order, you're talking about having some, all-star caliber players, Gordon Hayward, Jalen Brown, Terry Rozier. These are very good players you're talking about coming off the bench. So, if you need to give your players a rest, you throw these guys out there. You're not talking about having a second platoon of players. You have a second platoon of starters almost.
At this point, I don't think it's debatable that the Warriors have a better starting 5, and they're going to get Boogie Cousins back soon.
Ridiculous stuff.
But the Celtics are deeper, and I do think they have a better coach. Say what you will about how important coaching is.
Yeah, you look at a matchup in the future, and you're talking about who's the best player in the series. Kevin Durant, of course, they have the best player.
Steph Curry, will he be there? He might be knee deep in conspiracy theories about moon landings and like Stanley Kubrick and like what I don't know what he's thinking.
Steph Curry's wild. I am a Steph Curry guy, but this whole moon landing thing is a little bit sketch. I don't know if he's going. I feel like Kyrie when he went with the
Some people
Hornets
were saying that was like a subtle shot at Kyrie for the flat Earth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think people do go off the rails a little bit with some of this stuff. But yeah, the whole Embiid complaining thing, that makes me think less of the 76ers. I do think the Raptors are obviously a real
What happened to the
contender.
process,
Yeah. Well, Markelle Fultz.
Teach him to shoot a free throw or a jump shot.
How's Markelle Fultz doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, how's Markelle Fultz doing? How's that working out for him? Because they would trade him for a bag of balls right now.
I didn't mean to cut you off. You were getting to the Raptors?
No, I think the Raptors are a real contender. You're talking about Kawhi Leonard, who has won an NBA championship. They've been a contender in the league. I like that organization. I think that they can contend.
I don't trust the
Bucks,
Raptors.
The Bucks with Giannis. I think Giannis is a top 5 NBA player. I really do. I think this guy is.
I heard some
awesome.
stat the other day. He's on pace to break the all-time like dunk record or something like that.
As far as like a player goes, I don't know like how great that team is. But as far as players go, you're talking this guy is
I think
the sky is the limit.
Instead
He's
of targeting
great.
Anthony Davis, they should target Giannis.
Giannis is unbelievable. I speak very highly of him, but every time I've watched him play, it's like it's unbelievable. And the guy is a stud for sure.
Moving on, we got some Red Sox news.
So some Red Sox news. You get the winter meetings in Vegas, so this is like the big time of the MLB off season. Nate Eovaldi re-signed. Big Dick Nate.
Yeah.
This guy had balls. This guy was carrying his balls in a wheelbarrow in the playoffs into the stadium.
This is true.
Come on. This guy
Cojones.
sacked up in the playoffs for us. So I know that some people are saying 4-year deal, a little bit a lot.
But you're kind of paying him for what he did.
For what he did. And I think that you're talking like next year, I'm not sure. You talk about it like, okay, he had 2 Tommy John surgeries. That's risk.
Almost seen as a good thing these days because their elbows like completely rebuilt. You know what I'm saying?
You can't say that it's had an effect. The guy was throwing it. gas in the playoffs last year.
Straight gas.
Straight gas, homie. And honestly, like, it was just fun to watch. And I think that, and I think we were talking about this earlier, that the Red Sox DVD, which I thought was...
Oh, on the last one, you bought it.
I bought it, I watched it, thought it was great. Typical Red Sox porn. Sat here for, an hour and a half, just completely zoned in.
You got a little Pedro in your pants there?
Got a little Pedro in my pants. I was a little disappointed at the lack of coverage before the World Series. I thought that it was focused mostly solely on like the series with the Dodgers. I feel like the Yankee series and the Astros series defined as much of the season, if not more, than the Dodgers series, which I thought we kind of dominated.
Certainly more enjoyable. Beating the Yankees is always fun. The whole like Aaron Judge, New York thing.
Of course.
Like that was great.
That was great. And then the Astros, I thought that was like the World Series.
Right.
I thought if we beat the Astros...
I think the Astros were better than the Dodgers.
That's what I mean. If we beat the Astros, we're going to win the World Series. That's how I felt. And we kind of... They call it the gentleman sweep. We gentleman sweeped everybody, the Yankees, the Astros, where it's, you give them one game, you let them think that...
Little tip of the cap.
Yeah, we didn't sweep you. You meant to be... But yeah, no, that's the best Red Sox team that I've ever seen. I mean, we can go back. This is the fourth World Series. That's the best Red Sox team I've ever seen.
I don't know, just because of how much it meant to us.
The 04 was
the 04 team.
The best. It felt the best, but this year was the best team. I think they just swept right through the league. 119 total wins. Just swept right through the league.
A couple other things they touched on in the off-season meetings is some of these rule changes, like the pitch clock and stuff like that. How are you like a baseball traditionalist or?
I think the game. I'm not. I think the game needs to be speeded up. Like first and foremost, the game needs to be speeded up. The games are gone on too long.
Did you hear about these? They're pitching like maybe having an illegal defense where you can't shift, you can't have two guys past second base or something like that.
Yeah, I mean like they're gonna bring it into the winter meetings, and they have a poll of questions at the winter meetings.
Every other sport has an illegal defense. I don't see why baseball can't. I mean, because they're getting to this point where it's just home run, strikeout, or walk. There's no balls in play.
The games are going on forever. Some of these guys are taking forever to get the ball to the plate.
They moved the Sox-Yanks game to 7 o'clock on the ESPN instead of, they usually play at like 8:30.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. But if they can just speed up baseball, get more youth involved, I think that'd be better for everybody.
Yeah, nobody wants to watch a 4.5, 5-hour baseball game. It's ridiculous.
No, it's crazy.
It's too much. You talk about these other sports. You're talking about football games, baseball games. I'm sorry, hockey games, basketball games. You're talking 3.5 hour max. I mean,
Yeah.
Let's talk about Game 3 against the Dodgers. We're talking it was like that could never happen.
It's a great storyline for the DVD, but in the moment...
Which again, I wish they covered more of the Astros series. I really... The Astros series was big to me. The whole call, Mookie going up to the wall, the fan interference. I mean, there's so many things I thought that the DVD could have added that they didn't. But, again, it was awesome. Another Red Sox note I had from the winter meetings was that they were possibly shopping Rick Porcello after signing Ubaldi, which I'd like to keep him around. We do have...
Can't keep everybody.
No, we have Eduardo Rodriguez, and we have several other guys that can start.
And eventually they're going to have to, get some guys from the farm system. They haven't had a pitcher come up in a while. They've been relying on trades for some time now.
Yeah, so a couple other things from the winter meetings. You got Yasiel Puig has been involved in a lot of rumors, leading me to believe that I think that the Dodgers are going to end up with Bryce Harper. I think if they're really actively shopping Yasiel Puig, I think that Harper wants to go to a big market.
That's classic Dodgers.
Exactly. I think Harper wants to go to a big market. They'll pay him. That's where he wants to be.
Do you think he's worth it? I mean, I think he's... I don't know. Like,
it remains to be seen. I don't think
he's
definitely worth it.
He's not Mike Trout.
Where if it was Mike Trout, I would say yes. He's not Mookie.
I would trade any 4 players on the Red Sox for Mike Trout.
Not Mookie.
What?
Not Mookie.
Oh man, Mike Trout is like Mickey Mantle.
I'd take Mookie over Mike Trout himself.
You're crazy, man.
I like Mookie. I'm a big Mookie guy. But definitely, I think they're trying to get that. Also, Miguel Andujar of the Yankees has been involved in several trade rumors. Meaning, I think which I've said all along that Manny Machado is going to end up in New York. I think, like you had said on the last podcast, he's a Yankee-type player. He is a Yankee-type player.
I think Machado is extremely overrated. I actually kind of wrote about this said on the Wardo and The Don WordPress about how he really only comes through in the game's over.
That don't matter.
It's already, the game's already decided. They're either up by a lot or down by a lot.
I hope he signs with the Yankees. Just another guy, just like Giancarlo Stanton when he signed there. That
Big
everybody
name,
gets
big
excited
bat.
about it. I don't see him beating the Red Sox. Like I said, we got Mookie, Benintendi. These guys are guys that are rounded players. They play defense. They play not only offense, but they hit for average. They hit for power. You know, they can steal. They're rounded baseball. 5-tool, as you say. 5-tool players.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, I take that over a guy like Giancarlo or a guy like that any day. I'm not a big. I like Machado, but I'm not sold on him. I think I think him going to the Yankees is inevitable. Also, the Blue Jays dropped Troy Tulowitzki, who had $38 million left in the contract. So they're going to apparently eat $38 million.
Baseball players, man.
Apparently they were just over him. $38 million to eat $38 million. Someone's going to sign him probably at a low cost because he's getting paid anyway.
I don't know how any of these athletes who can choose between baseball, basketball, baseball, football, how they never choose baseball. It's like you're just hanging out with the boys. They make more money than anybody, guaranteed contracts. It's
no
crazy.
salary cap in baseball. No salary cap, so that adds to it.
There was some controversy in baseball with the Hall of Fame. These guys, Harold Baines and Lee Smith. I personally don't know much about them, but I think we're both kind of small hall guys. And kind of last week we did our top 5 30 for 30s, and this week we're kind of doing our top 5 baseball players who aren't in the Hall of Fame but should be.
Yeah.
Do you want to start or do you want me to go?
Go ahead. Go for it.
So, from number 5 to number 1, I got Manny Ramirez, number 5. I love Manny. I don't care about steroids whatsoever. I know I just said I'm a small hall guy. I contradict myself here, but
yeah, no, Man Ram is
and just for his antics, going into the Green Monster, just not giving a fuck. Manny being Manny, dude. Yeah. He was remember that cutoff throw that he cut off at the best.
That was hilarious from Damon.
Yeah, number 4, Doc Ellis. I don't know what his stats are, but he had that perfect game on acid. My boy. Put him in the Hall. Yeah. That's an achievement.
That should be in the Hall of Fame.
I don't know where you stand on that,
on
but
acid is a Hall of Fame achievement.
Hall of Fame achievement. Close the gates. The man cannot be beat. Number 3 is a little more practical. Barry Bonds, all-time home run leader, whatever. Number 2, the gambler, Pete Rose. I think he's pretty sure he might still be the all-time hits leader.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's just we were talking about John Daly on the podcast and talk about just brother from another mother.
Yep.
Pete Rose, John Daly, and number 1 is just a personal, sentimental. My boy, Mark Bellhorn needs to be in the Hall of Fame.
Mark Bellhorn.
I don't care what you say. He had easily top 3 lettuces of all time in the league.
He did have a fantastic lettuce.
No question about that.
And I'll tell you, he was a clutch performer in the 04 World Series.
Never would have won the World Series without him.
Yeah, he had a couple of dingers. Yeah, if I remember right, he had one in the ALCS and one in the World Series off the foul pole.
I believe he had 2.
Right off the foul pole. Yeah.
Ding dong.
Ding dong. I remember that. Lastly, I had a couple of things in the MLB. The Phillies signed Andrew McCutchen to a 3-year, $50 million deal.
Oh, nice.
So he's off the market. And also there was rumors about Noah Syndergaard going to the Yankees, which I don't think is going to happen. But
yeah,
that's just typical Yankee rumor. So anyway, my top 5. I had, starting at number 5, Mike Lowell.
Ooh.
And Mike Lowell.
Silver Fox.
So, he's inducted into the Red Sox Hall of Fame this year, I believe.
Okay.
And he's never going to get into the Hall of Fame, I don't believe. But I think if you factor in his defense and, he was just a baller. He was just a big gamer. He won in Florida. He came to Boston. He won here. He was just a big game guy. I loved him at third. He's like my all-time third baseman for the Red Sox.
I think Beckett was on that Florida team, too.
He was, yeah. Yep. Dontrell Willis, Miguel Cabrera.
Ooh.
They were that was a stud team. Then I have Don Mattingly.
Yeah.
And then, there's the obvious, the next couple guys are, again, I'm not sure they're ever going to get in. Some people really are against them ever getting in. But Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens at 3 and 2.
Yeah, Clemens I thought about putting on my list. He's you kind of have to get him in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know that there are allegations with them and they did what they did, but at the same time,
they still would have been great players without
those are Hall of Fame baseball players, and I can't argue with that. And at number 1, you got the gambler, Pete Rose. Pete Rose is, Pete Rose is the man. Pete Rose is maybe the best pure hitter in baseball history. The guy, on top of the fact that he hustled, he was a hustler. The guy would lay it out. He was a gamer.
He charged the catcher in the All-Star game.
Yes.
Pete Rose did not care. He was
No, he didn't care at all.
Well, that's just about gonna do it for episode 4 of Wardo and The Don.
I am Wardo.
I am The Don. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, .com/Wardo and The Don. Look for the playlist on Spotify. Turn up the volume. You're gonna love it. And hit us up on WordPress as well, wordpress.com/Wardo and The Don. And we'll catch you next time.
All right, have a good one.
Everybody's high on consolation. Everybody's trying to tell me what is right for me. Yeah. My daddy tried to bore me with a sermon, but it's plain to see that they can't comfort me. Sorry, Charlie, for the imposition. I got the strength to carry on, yeah. I need a drink and a quick decision. Now it's up to me, what will be? She's gone, I better learn how to face it.